Here.
John Walsh,
Here.
Peter Talbot.
Here.
Everyone's present.
All right, excellent. Let's, I guess, rise for the Pledge of Allegiance. Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America, to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Okay, great. Well, thank you all. Hopefully this will be a quick meeting. We talked about these two items at our last meeting, and I think we were just looking for some follow-up on the proposed, first we're going to start with the proposed tax overpayment retention and billing waiver ordinance. So there was some proposed language in the agenda that came out from Noel to amend ordinance section 3-3. And oh, sorry, that's building permit. Sorry, wrong one. Switch pages. Here we go. That there was some discussion of waiving the property tax of $2 or less, and that we would talk about pursuant to 12-144C, that effective with October 1, 20, the grand list, which that I guess it will be the 2023 grand list. It'll be this upcoming October's list, right?
It should be, because the first half of the 22 list is due too soon.
Right. And we're not going to do it in the middle of the year. So
Right. I think that's right.
right. Okay. So then obviously we would then for any property tax due of an amount equal to or less than $2 will be waived. So if there's an underpayment of less than $2, and if there is a waiver. So that was the one issue. One is the waiver of issuance for a tax bill for amounts $5 or less. We talked about this, that there are certain amounts of where items on the grand list where the property tax bill, the whole bill itself may be less than $5. I think that's what we were talking about last time with things that are even smaller than boat trailers, right?
Right.
So, and that was going to be helping the tax collector more, or the assessor more, perhaps maybe more than the tax collector. And then retention of excess payments under $5. So if there's an overpayment of something less than $5, the town will not have to refund that to a taxpayer, and we can keep that. And then and that there are no outstanding tax bills to which the excess payment can be applied or credited. So obviously if there's other tax bills outstanding that we can apply that to, we will, but if not, those funds can be kept by the town. And then any delinquent tax shall be paid only in cash or via certified check or bank check. So we talked about that at the last meeting to make sure that the payment was going to be in something that was immediately good funds, and something that couldn't, then we find out later that for example, a personal check that doesn't clear. So obviously those were addressing the four items that we talked about at the last meeting. With that, Sean or Arnett, do you have any other thoughts on this, or any other issue?
Well,
anything else?
Just to revisit the one, I'm glad you highlighted it. I want to confirm, and maybe with the grand list effective date. So the October 1, 22 list is what we just built the fiscal 23-24 budget on, and those bills will be out in June with a due date of July 1st and a late date of July 31st, right? So can it be effective October 1st of 22 grand list, Jeff?
I think it has to be the 23 grand list, right?
Why would, if we haven't generated the bills yet, though?
You could make it effective as of the 10/1/22 grand list, because what you're talking about is obviously the overpayment
Right.
situation as well as the, $2 or less being waived. So
Right.
if you wanted to have that be effective with the 10-1-22 grand list, it certainly could be. We're not saying that it has to be waived on August 1,
Right.
Right. Okay.
right?
Right.
Yeah, I mean, from an administrative perspective, if you want it effective with the 22 grand list, I'm sure that that Anne Marie would be happy with that.
I think so too. Yeah, I just wanted to clarify it. It's always confusing because we use the 22 list for the 24 budget. So it's really
Right.
2 years apart effectively in terms of the
Right.
calendar that we're talking about.
Right. I was thinking 1 year out, not 2 years
No,
out.
it's one fiscal, but it's really two kind of, 22 is how we build the 24 budget. So if we can use 22 and there's no legal issues with that, that would be my
fine.
preference would be
Sure.
have it effective, it would be effective after adoption. And if we're adopting this following the hearing, barring no issues, right, then we should be good for July 1st.
And then one of the other questions that I'm fine with, so I guess we'll stick with the first two sections. Peter, Don, any thoughts on the numbers of, I'm good with $2 and $5, but I wanted to see if either of you had any thoughts on those amounts, whether we want to lower it, to $1, that was discussed originally, I think that was, and then we went up to $2. So I'm fine with either of those, I just wanted to give you guys any thoughts on that one.
I'm good with 2 and 5.
Yeah, I'm okay with that too.
All right. Okay, that's good. That's easy. And I think that will make the tax collector's life a lot easier.
I did, not to interrupt you, David, I did send the drafts to Anne Marie and she did tell me that she was good, no edits.
Okay, perfect. Good. That's what I figured. My only question then was on the third one, the retention of excess tax payments under $5. Where let's see, waiver tax bills, right? Oh, so on the waiver of tax bills for amounts of $5 or less. We talked about, I guess the question was pursuant, let's see, the percentage to retain on behalf. Right. Did we talk at all more about that issue of not issuing bills at all? At the last meeting, we talked about the idea of not even having things that were small numbers, even on the grand list, like if they were below that $5, right?
I don't know that I can't think of a scenario where you would have an assessment that would generate a tax less than $5.
Right. I was just curious because my question is, at the last meeting, I thought there was a discussion of the issue of that the assessor's office, or that maybe had a policy, and that policy had no ordinance to back it up. And that's what we were talking about, whether we needed to do that, either have an ordinance that either allowed them to waive tax bills on things that were less than $5 in total, or something like at our last meeting. Am I missing that conversation? Didn't we have that conversation that the tax office had a standing policy that they didn't issue tax bills for things that were tax bills that were less than $5?
They say that they didn't, or they were still doing it, I thought.
One of the, oh, excuse me, Don, sorry.
Go ahead.
One of the discussion items was, Anne Marie had thought about possibly tying that to an assessment amount instead of a dollar amount.
Right,
And
okay.
after discussion with the assessors, she realized that we should stick with the dollar amount.
Okay.
That's part of the discussion that I remember, but I also do think you're right, David. I think that this is past practice. It's not a policy, it's past practice, and it needed to be codified.
Right. And I guess that's my question. Are we doing that here?
Like I said, I sent this to Anne Marie last week and she sent me back an email saying she was happy with it, so. Guess we're accomplishing what she wanted us to accomplish.
Right. Okay. But I do, she said this bill was more for the tax assessor than the than for her. Just trying to
Well, we
think.
could, we
Okay.
could send it to Chris and see if Chris has any input on it.
I was just,
She, Anne Marie had met with Chris on this.
Okay.
Already.
okay, so let's see, because under the second category, waiver of issuance of tax bills for amounts of $5 or less pursue effective in the town shall waive the issuance of a bill. Okay, so I guess we are in the second one, I guess we are codifying it in the second one of the four.
Right,
Yeah, that's my recollection too. I think that was.
Okay, so that's where we're now codifying the policy in the waiver of issuance. Okay, in number 4. All right, and then I had them in the wrong order. I was thinking that I was reading the second one as the keeping the $5, but that's number 3. Okay. So, all right, so good. As long as we're codifying that policy, that's good. I just wanted to make sure that we're ultimately taking care of that one because that was part of the discussions that we had in that. So I think we're okay with that. I mean, obviously, one of the things I think, Don, you mentioned in the last meeting was the question of, okay, well, what if we waive these $5? How many $5 are we waiving? I can't imagine it's a lot, but I thought that was one of the discussion items too. Was we said, is there a lot of these? There's probably not, but I think Don wanted to, at least as far as I recollect, I think Don asked the question is how many of these are there? How many, if we're waiving these, how much are we talking about? So I don't know whether that was even something that we were able to look at. I said, I can't imagine it's a big number, but because it's even less than $5. So those are, if we were assessing boat trailers at $200, I can't imagine what we're assessing at something even smaller than that would even not be on the grand list. So okay.
Yeah, I don't have that answer myself. I don't know
Yeah.
if Arnett was able to get that either, but it may be something they're still looking into and we could maybe have for the council meeting.
Yeah, I mean, I can't imagine it's a big number. Don, is that something that you were worried about or I thought it was something that you had raised at the last meeting just to get a feel for how much this was going to be, but I'm not too particularly worried about it, but it was in my notes as something that you had raised as a question. So I was just, all right, well, with that, I guess we'll talk about the last one, which is the payment of delinquent taxes. This is just something else we talked about, which was just codifying the fact that if someone is paying delinquent taxes, they have to pay it in cash or by certified check or bank check so that we know that they're good funds. I'm fine with all 4 of these. These are perfectly fine by me. Do we need further discussion from Don or Peter? Do you guys have any other thoughts on these? Is there any questions? Are we ready to move these 4 items to the council for recommend that the council adopts these changes?
I'm having trouble with my internet, so I don't know if you can hear me, but I think I'm okay with that moving forward.
Okay. Yeah, it looks like
I
you
am
froze.
as well.
Yeah, it looks like you froze for a little bit there when I was asking if you had any questions on the amounts of those small bills.
Yeah, no, I was okay with the amounts, it's fine.
Okay.
I thought he was staring us down.
Yeah, I know.
That's it.
Yes.
Yeah, trying to find the red side here.
So with that, what obviously do we just now make a motion to
Forward to the council.
forward to the council for with a recommendation that the town adopts these ordinance changes?
Yeah, we need to have a public hearing.
Oh, we need, okay. So we just need to forward it to the council for a public hearing.
Yep.
Okay. So with that, I will entertain a motion to
I'll move.
forward these to the council to set a public hearing for the adoption of these 4 ordinance changes.
So moved.
Okay,
Second,
perfect. Any further discussion? If not, all in favor? Aye. Okay, it's unanimous. Thank you. And then that'll bring us to the building permit building permit fee ordinance. We had some discussion, obviously, at the last meeting to discuss section 3.3 to increase the amount of building permit fees from $25 per $1,000 or fraction thereof to $30 per $1,000 or fraction thereof. And then section 3-3A is amended to change the building permit fee from $12 for each additional $1,000 or fraction thereof to $15 per each additional $1,000 or fraction thereof. And that section 3-3E is deleted in its entirety. And that the remainder of section 3-3 remains unchanged and is unaltered by the foregoing amendments. So we talked about those numbers. I think we were all good with those numbers. And then so there was also some discussion about whether we wanted to include, I guess, whether we wanted to include it here or as a separate thing to discuss the idea of the, what did we call it? The fire review, a fire review charge, something of that nature. And I wasn't sure if there was any discussion of that, Sean or Arnett with staff and whether we wanted to take that up.
Yeah, so I've discussed with Jack Kasner and directed him to do some research on that, comparing to other towns. I know he connected with actually the North Haven fire chief, who he knows well, and a few others. But we see that as a separate proposal that'll be coming, at a later date, and want to make sure he's researched it and we've costed the whole thing out, and it'll be in a different, probably in its own standalone section, I would assume. So
Right, because it might be in a
not
different.
part of this. Yeah, not part of
Right.
this
Wouldn't be-
requested approval.
Right, and it wouldn't be part of probably the building permit stuff would be in another section. Of the
I think
ordinance.
that's right. And we'd have to figure out, he and I had a meeting about it. And again, in terms of who issues the receipts and manages the transaction, again, view permit does make it easier, but right now he's not really set up to process through revenue. Some of that just becomes an accounting issue with directing funds that are received from the view permit system. So it's all solvable problems. It's just we're not quite ready yet. So, but most importantly, we got to come up with what that rate is, what's a fair rate for the review, and some more information like we did with the building fee with what do other towns have, and so you guys can make an informed decision.
Okay, well, thank you very much for following up on that. So that leaves us with just the initial changes that are being proposed, which was that raise from $25 to $30 for the first 1,000 and from $12 to $15 for each additional 1,000 or fraction thereof. Don, Peter, any thoughts on this? Are you good with those numbers? Okay,
Yeah,
okay,
I'm fine with it. I think it'll other similar towns, so I think that's fine.
okay, excellent. So, Sean, Arnett, anything else to add to this one? I mean, is there anything else going on?
No, I think nothing's
I think
changed
we're
since the
good.
last time we presented. I think we're nothing further.
Okay, perfect. Well, then with that, I will entertain a motion to, do we have to go to a public hearing on this, or is this just something that the council would do?
Public hearing.
Okay. All right, so then we'll entertain a motion to forward this to the council for public hearing.
Second,
Thank you. Any further discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor? Vote is unanimous. Thank you all very much. So, good, that's a record time for us, I think, for a meeting. That's good. So I think this allows Jeff to get on to his next meeting, right?
I'm here. The
Oh,
Berlin.
good.
Council
You're already-
regards.
All right. Well, then we'll let you get on with that business. Thank you all very
Thanks,
much. Entertain a motion
everyone.
to adjourn.
Donna looks frozen, so I'm not gonna wait. I will move that.
All right, I'll second. All those in favor? Aye. Motion to adjourn passes. Thank you all very much.
Good night,
Unanimous.
folks.
It's
All right,
unanimous,
perfect.
yeah.
Yeah, motions to adjourn are often, that's one of the most unanimous votes you're gonna get right there, so. All right, thank you all. Have a good evening.
You
Good
too.
night.
Thanks a lot. Bye.